Freedom is waking up every morning and not having to calculate the hours you have to spend doing things that you hate. That's what freedom means. Some people have jobs that are relatively low paid, but they find highly rewarding. Let's say somebody's a marine biologist. They make $50,000 a year. They're always diving down and collecting seaweed to check it for mercury levels in the ocean. If they enjoy the diving and the marine biology and that side of their job, then they wake up in the morning thinking, thank God I get to go out on a boat, dive in the ocean, swim around, do my stuff. What a nice life. They are free. I think that total freedom isn't something that men should aspire to, because there's nothing wrong, especially when you have a family and people who depend on you, with waking up thinking I'm going to do X number of hours of something I hate to make my other hours more rewarding. So I feel like there's a trade-off. But essentially, freedom is the ability to do whatever you want. So if you have to go to work for 8 hours in a job that you may or may not enjoy, let's say you hate your job, but you have the best family life at home, a wife who loves you for working and makes you feel appreciated, and your kids give you a hug when you run in from work, you're pretty free, because the reward is worth what you've paid. But on a macro level, being super rich and being retired and not having a job and having $100 million in the bank would be pure freedom, because you could do 100% of what you want all of the time. And people say money isn't freedom or money isn't happiness, but they're wrong. Because they say this to me and I always ask them, okay, what do you enjoy doing? And they'll say something like, oh, well, not everything costs money. I like volunteering at dog shelters. I like taking walks in the park. I like spending time with my kids. And I'll say, yeah, but imagine how much of those things you could do more if I gave you $10 million. And their face kind of drops. So the way that the economy is set up and the way that the banking system is set up, money is absolutely freedom in every single regard. No matter what you enjoy doing, you could do more of it with money. A roadmap to become more free would be either do something you hate to earn 10 times more, so you can retire sooner and enjoy more of your life free, or switch career paths and stop focusing on making as much money as possible and try and find yourself in a situation where you're doing something you enjoy as much as possible. For example, some people enjoy photography and making videos. Don't understand them. I think it's nerdy. However, if they do that all day, every day, it doesn't feel like a job. The way that my life is set up nowadays, I spend hours and hours in my day tinkering with the online university, speaking to people inside of it. That's a pleasure to me. I enjoy it. I enjoy hearing and watching the success stories and seeing the fruits of my labor. So I don't feel so much like I'm working or doing something I don't enjoy. So yeah, make a bunch more money, or steer your direction in a way that you enjoy what you do. Ideally, both. Burnout exists in your later years. So there was a study I read once, it was done on exercise and what types of exercise are good for you and what types of exercise are bad for you. And there's a type of exercise that's bad for you overall, and it's classified as toil, T-O-I-L, as in toiling in the fields. Toil is exercise, but it's exercise that is overall negative for your health. So let's say you are carrying bricks back and forth. Okay. In your 20s, it may make you stronger, but 40 years of carrying bricks back and forth has shortened your lifespan by 30, 40 years. Your joints are shot, your back is shot, everything is shot. So burnout does actually exist, because we all are human. However, I don't think it exists in your younger years. I used to work 2 jobs and train 3 or 4 hours a day at the kickboxing gym when I was 18 to 26, 27. I don't think you can get burned out when you're younger. I think if you are young and you're strong and you're fit, go and work on an oil rig. Go work on an Alaskan fishing vessel. Do something crazy. Yeah, it's dangerous. Yeah, it's hard. However, these people are making, $100, $150, $200 an hour in a lot of cases. Why not do that instead of something comfortable? You're in your 20s. You're invincible. So avoid burning out when you're older. You have to be a lot more intelligent with your choices, I think, when you get past 30 years old. But as a young man, there's no such thing. Just go for it. I think the 4-hour workday is a bunch of bullshit. I think that it's a privileged position that when you're already in a position of power and success, like myself, I can work 4 hours a day, maybe, and maintain everything that I have. It's like training. It's like training. If I were to say you only need to work out 30 minutes a day to be in good shape, you'd call me a liar, and I probably am lying. However, if you're a big fat fuck and you spend 2 years training 2 or 3 hours a day getting into amazing shape, once you're in amazing shape, if you watch what you eat, 30 minutes a day can probably maintain most of what you've gained so far. So I think the 4-hour workday is a myth. I think that it's a myth written by successful people who only need to do a little bit to maintain what they had, or perhaps grew up in or were born in such a position where they could just do the minimal amount to continue the success of their family or the legacy of their father or whatever companies they were originally hired into by family members. Yeah, I think you should be working 18-hour days when you're young. The slogan I would use is a slogan my old boss would use. He'd look at what we were doing in the office and he'd say, is doing what you're doing now going to affect the positive outcome of the day? And I've always stuck to that when I'm doing things, whether I'm filming or working or looking at code or looking at spreadsheets. Is doing what I'm doing now going to affect the positive outcome of the day, or to affect the outcome of the day positively? And I worked in a sales environment at the time. So I'd be going through my old leads, sorting out my paperwork and stuff. And I think, you know what? This isn't going to make me any more money. Why don't I call up all my old leads that said no? Why don't I go knock on some more doors? So is doing what you're doing now going to positively affect the outcome of the day? Yes or no? If the answer is still yes, stay at your workstation. I wouldn't say I've ever eased off the gas pedal and Andrew has ever eased off the gas pedal. I think that there are limits to being rich that make some people happy. My brother has an addiction to hypercars. If we had none of those cars, we'd be comfortably rich enough never to work again. We could completely take our foot off the gas pedal. However, we like these things. I think it's a personal limit. I think when you take your foot off the gas pedal is a very personal limit. I think if you own your own home and you have investments that are paying you 100K a year, if you're happy with 100K a year and you always looked at 100K a year as a good salary, and that's what you're now making residually from your investments and your home's paid off and your car's paid off, by all means take your foot off the gas pedal if that's where you are. However, there are some men in the world that are simply built different. Elon Musk could have retired after selling PayPal. He sold it for close to $100 million back in the 90s, I think, or the early 2000s anyway, when $100 million was worth a lot more than what $100 million is today. Elon could have just stopped. He could have enjoyed his life, had as many kids as he wanted, because he obviously likes women and having children. Good for him. And none of us would know his name today. Very few people would ever know who he is, but he did not take his foot off the gas pedal. In fact, he pressed it harder. I would argue he's working harder now than he probably ever has in his life. And good for him. So would you have stopped at 10 billion, 100 billion, 150 billion, 1 billion? Would you? Would I? I don't know, but some men are simply built different. So maybe I haven't stopped now when you would have in my position, for the same reason that Elon hasn't stopped now, when perhaps I would if I were in his position. It's all subjective. A friend of mine once told me that you should always wear an expensive Swiss watch, Rolex ideally, because in a life or death situation, it will always get you on the last plane out of wherever you are. So if you're in Lebanon and you want to get on the last plane out of Lebanon, you can hand over your Rolex and jump on the plane. And that's a very good way of carrying wealth on you that isn't usually confiscated from you when, the police come and search you and raid your house, etc. Yeah, freedom, geographical freedom is very important also, because things go wrong all the time. There's famously a bunch of people in Florida now who will not leave their homes, who will not leave their boats, who will not leave Florida at all during this hurricane, which happened, I think, last night or yesterday. And the reason they're not going to leave is because that's all they've got. That house and the stuff in it and the dog living in it with them is all they've got in the world. So what, hitchhike where? To come back and find their whole lives wiped out? They'd rather stay with their stuff. They'd rather die on their hill, quite literally. And I think that geographical freedom, it is of course tied to finance, but as a citizen of anywhere in the world with a political climate that's uncertain, certainly have your passport. Certainly have friends in other countries that you could stay with. Certainly keep enough money in the bank for a plane ticket. Certainly keep all of these things, in your back pocket. Because if you aren't free geographically, then you can get tied up in stupid situations politically. My brother and I preach this all the time, and ironically, we found ourselves trapped in the country of Romania. However, I'm still very, very free. I'm a very free person. Life is good. I can see any woman I want, anytime I like. I fly them in. They come and hang out with me. I see any friends I like from anywhere in the world. Old school friends, they jump on planes. I fly them to me. I'm still free within my house, more so than lots of people who can go wherever they like. Because they can't go wherever they like, can they? They haven't got a passport. They haven't got any bloody money. They sit on the internet tweeting hate tweets about me and my brother about how we're constrained within the country of Romania, which is a very big, very beautiful country. But yeah, I'm very free. If I need to see my mother, private jet, she gets on the jet, she arrives here at my house via chauffeured car. I'm free to do things that a lot of people aren't, even though I'm constrained. So freedom is a interesting concept, and there's very many different ways to measure it. But it's also very important. Whatever you feel like freedom is, if you feel it's going to make you happier, it's something that you should definitely pursue. To Americans, to become more globally free, I'd say, first and foremost, fear of the unknown is what's keeping you where you are. Get a passport, get a little bit of money, go to other places. Go visit Poland, go visit Thailand, go visit Indonesia, go visit places where an American could very easily go and set up shop and live. If you had been once to Poland and looked around and you thought, well, I'm a computer programmer, I could live and work here, you would not stay in the United States for half a second if things got any worse, because the world is an amazing place. And I always know people are ignorant when people say, well, why do you live in Romania? I live in the Americas, the best country in the world. Why do you live in Romania? You're American. Why don't you live here? I'm like, have you ever been to Romania? They're like, no. There you go. Bucharest is better than most American cities for lots of different reasons. And American cities have their advantages, and Bucharest has its advantage. In terms of safety, it's safer than any American city ever. Any American city in the United States, Bucharest is safer than. So, you can't make the leap of faith to do something different with your life if you are completely in the dark about what's out there. I don't know where you're watching this video, but it might not be around forever. The Matrix may take it down. However, up here, there's a link to my Telegram channel. Please click it. All the daily Tristan Tate content is going to be posted there, and that channel isn't going anywhere.